Base John, when you were on the council, you and Tim Brown, before you left, made questioning about the reimbursement accounts, if you remember. And the discussions were whether we should eliminate the reimbursement accounts and just go to a straight stipend. That never occurred. We also had comments from you guys that there were payments that were made longer than a period of time. We tightened that up. No more than 2 months or you're out, period. Yeah, and so that's kind of where we are, updating with the new stuff. Go ahead, Vicki. And so we did look over this and we've had a lot of staff time putting this information together. I'm not sure I agree with you, sir, and that it is not a waste of time. It showed that we had a procedure in place that was not being followed, okay? With that, we have taken and are going to take corrective measures so it doesn't happen again. And we represent the city. We take it very, very personal and very strongly that we want to make sure that when we do have something in place, that it's adhered to the best of the ability to the people that policy is designed for. And by no means do we have a policy that we don't want enforced. Unfortunately, we had this one that happened.
Anybody else have any? Okay, I would like to say that there were a number across the board that we didn't receive. There was no backup. So to make the statement that everything has been paid back, that assumes that the things that were handed in were correct, and they weren't. So there is a greater figure here other than the $100 the $200 that have been paid. As a city council, we have options right now. We can either one of our options is to have Mayor Hagerty pay those in full back from, because as you look through this, and it's available for viewing, as you look through this, you'll see that some have copies of uncanceled checks, some have no copies, some are unsigned, some have the numbers transposed. There are none of, I think maybe 2 of them that were correct enough to be counted. The rest are almost zeroed out because of the errors. So one of our options as a council is to ask for reimbursement. That kind of contradicts what we said. We go back 2 months and that's it. But this would be asking Mayor Hagerty to reimburse those funds to us. The other option we have is a suspension of additional and further reimbursements ever. To fight that right now at this point because of all the trouble. The other would be to remove as mayor and turn to a council member. One would be to report it to a higher authority. Those are our options, and that is what we owe it to Canyon Lake to talk about now. What do we do now? Accident or not, and I understand that it's happened. It has to be dealt with in some way. Anybody?
Just to confirm, we do have, after the audit was done, we have found that there are, as Vicki had pointed out, it is not just $100. It's yeah. Okay. If all of this documentation, which looked at everything, we have an internet overcost. Now, the mayor has already paid back $100 of about $273.21. Phone overcharge $686.79. Those are the differences in the numbers. So it's not just a few dollars.
Well, this is a nice little surprise. You guys say it for me.
Okay, this is what I was trying to say. What this encompasses is the entire, if you look at each one as being the ones that are incorrect, that are incomplete, unsigned, incorrect with their figures, should not have been approved of, should not have gone through. Each of those are considered overpayments because they don't have any of the documentation that's required by law. So those would be considered overpayments. You've paid back some of that because it was brought to your attention to do that. If we look at all of those that were incorrect and missing such document, and we look at them as not being valid expense reports, that means the city has paid you too much for internet by the amount of $273.21 and too much for your phone in the amount of $686.79. That is those are the figures
That's
that,
based on the fact that the backup was not.
right, that they were incorrect in some way, and some of them were incorrect in all ways. So some of them are very bad, some of them are a little bad, but the ones that at any rate should have been returned to you and said, you will not get paid for this until you show the proper documentation, those are the ones that
Why weren't they?
well, that's a question that we're going to have to pursue. But I do have some backup that was provided that shows that there was some people pursuing this with you. There's an email thread with Michelle that asking for certain information from you. So I know that in some cases, and you had said before that they had come to you, if they've come to you and you've given that backup and you can show that you have that you gave that, then we need that information, because that means that changes things. So let's say randomly, I'm not looking at the dates, but let's say April 2016, you didn't have the backup and they asked you for it and you provided it, whether you provided it to Mike or Aaron or directly to Michelle. If you have record of that you provided it, then this figure is wrong. And that whatever is in our city files when we get our review, that's incorrect, which is a whole nother kettle of fish, but we'll go there.
I just have a question. The two of you, the ad hoc committee has done an awful lot of work to bring it to this point. This is the first time that the council is aware of these things. I'm curious as to, do you have a recommendation, or have the two of you thought about what should take place going forward?
We brought this before the council, so collectively we could decide. This is not just the two of us, it requires the council. So we provided you with the information, and those are the kind of the things that we have come to discuss, but we are only discussing in this forum as far as what is potentially could happen. I guess another question, I guess this would be for the city manager, is how did we get to this point? Is it just the circumstances, or do you have a clue?
Well, apparently, it fell through the cracks, and obviously, and reviewing the audits as I've done recently, this is a staff issue. This was, and the buck stops with me, so it's just as much as my fault as it is finance's fault. Finance had some procedures in place. I know there were some issues, as you mentioned, with former council member Brown. There were issues with the switchover between Verizon and Frontier and bills and issues like that. Checking with the finance director, I believe Mayor Hager was in my office at that time. That kind of red flag for me, but when I asked him, is there a way to do this till we can get back up or whatever, and he said, yeah, it's not a problem. And I remember the fact that his answer did not scare me, so there wasn't a red flag there. So I'm like, okay, we can go back. So I don't remember what it was, but trust me, if it was a red flag, I would have said, wait a minute. So now it's as a procedure, as a process that we've put in, first of all, now finance knows I don't want to see them unless all the backup's there. I don't. So you just keep hounding the council until you get them. Number two, we're instituting a spreadsheet that will be part of the warrant. So you'll see that with the bills and the credit card statements and all that stuff. You will see a monthly spreadsheet with the council members' expenses, what they're asking for, and what they've put in for. So if their internet's $30, they're asking for $30. You know, if their cell phone's $100, they're asking for $60. It'll show there. It'll show the backup. And that's what we're doing. That's what we'll be doing in place now, so that so now the admin and finance committee can go over that once a month and make sure, okay, you know, and it's also a double check for me. So now when I get them, I can compare them to the spreadsheet to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Thank you.
Karen, you read several comments that I just need clarification. One of the first things you said is that you have procedures, please name those. What are those procedures? As the moment, a week ago, let's go a week ago, when you received an expense report from one of us, what was your procedure?
It goes to the finance department, and from what I've been told in the past, they go through there, make sure that everything's there. If not, they're supposed to go through.
You mean our accounting department?
Yes.
So it goes from you, nobody here reviews it before it goes to accounting?
Correct. It goes to accounting first. And they reviewed it, they go and talk to the council members, hey, I need this, I need that. I think one of the issues was, that I just found out about recently, well, when I started seeing it, was that the fact that, with Mayor Haggerty asked, not getting a bill for her cell phone, they told her it was okay to have a council check to show that offset.
That's not actually completely accurate, we'll go back to that.
Okay.
You also mentioned Tim's, I want to point something out. Tim Brown, former council member, had an issue with Frontier, everybody did, during the switchover, didn't have bills that would support his expenses. We held his feet to the fire, and we required not only the backup, but we required an affidavit, which is our next step, if somebody doesn't have it. Now, I can understand, I might go out and buy something for the city, forget that I didn't keep the receipt, I would fill out an affidavit, once or twice, that's fine. That's not the issue that we're talking about here. My point in bringing Tim up, you brought him up, is that for some reason, he was held to that standard, but for some reason, Don was not. And I don't understand how that happened. If there were checks and double checks, I don't understand how it is a document that is handed in to you and without any kind of look over, nobody looks that over and decides that it's okay before sending it on? I don't understand that.
Like I said, this is a staff issue.
A staff here or a
Yes.
staff there.
What do you mean staff there? It's all the way through, it's with our contract finance
Finance
department.
is a contract, sorry, I should have clarified that. Our accounting is a contract service. It's not,
And
they're
so,
not actually.
and we've had some changeover with their staff in the last year.
Does anybody else have any questions? Comments? We as a council have got to decide what to do.
Who requested this process with Tim? How did that come about?
You're up.
I'd have to go back and look. Tim actually brought it up, he said he hadn't put it in because he'd had trouble, and my recollection is coming, he was having problems with the bills and wanted to know what to do. And I'll have to check with the finance director because I believe he spoke with Terry about that.
Because that never happened with me.
I would also like to point out, we mentioned this previously, the finance director as an employee, a contract employee of an employee. So you have your city council, the city council's employee is the city manager. The city manager has an employee that is a contract account person. That contract account person has not got the right to decide and should never have been given that right to decide that anything is payable without those receipts, without that documentation, without a signature. And I have here, there were several times where they were given approval to do this, and the buck does stop with you, yes. So, I'm sorry, let me bring it back to a full circle. We'll deal with some of these other issues another time, but for tonight, we need to talk about our next step here. Again, I understand that it was a mistake. I understand there were several systems that failed. I also take into account members of the audience who have, and council members here who have not had these issues with these forms and have not had this much trouble, and we need to decide as a council, where do we go from here?
I think the council is looking for a recommendation from the committee.
Oh, listen, the committee's damn tired.
The committee,
Committee's looking for a recommendation.
Okay.
we actually, it took quite a while to process this, lots of phone calls, lots of.
Looking for a recommendation.
And the recommendation is their punitive action that should be taken. And that's the question that we have. And that means, I think Vicki outlined it, is there something that Don goes back to council member, or are there other measures that would be taken as a council to decide whether we move with measures or not? That's the question.
Looking for a recommendation, not a question.
Recommended, okay, go ahead.
I'll jump in. We do have the option of either asking the mayor to pay these back, or to, at this point, not ask for that. We also have the option of suspending the reimbursements. And what else? We have others?
Yes. Those, I think, are going up in level of severity. The first one would be restitution of amounts that were paid improperly. Second would be cut off of a return of that reimbursement, even if receipts were submitted. Third would be cut off of all reimbursements for the remainder of her term or terms. And it sort of goes up from there.
I understand what you're saying, Barry.
Excuse me.
But
I think the council needs to decide, along with this, which you did mention the word intend. And I went back when I found just in the last couple of days that even though I was providing checks, which I was told were acceptable, that it would be better if I had a canceled check. I went back to the bank and I pulled every check, well, the ones I had time to pull, showing the canceled checks for the last 6 months at least. I hope that in the time I had, that was all I had time to come up with, but because it's very time consuming to go back that far, but I did bring in copies of the canceled checks for the last 6 months. I will be happy to go to AT&T, which is my daughter's family plan is on, and request copies of the bills. I will do whatever is intended to make this right. I did not intend in any way to cheat the city out of a dime, and I'm getting a little upset about all of these drastic measures that are being mentioned for something that was unintentionally done, and I was fully prepared to rectify it in any way that I possibly could. Any way I've been told to rectify it, I have rectified it. I have to be told what needs to be fixed. As far as the $600, that's ridiculous because, well, I won't go there. But anyway, I just wanted to remind you all of the intent of this.
Well, I think you're gonna have to make a decision on something, because when it hits the newspaper, you don't do anything.
we hadn't, as the ad hoc committee, we hadn't actually come up with a plan because it was, you have to understand how these things work. The ad hoc committee gets this information, and then by law, we have to then share it with the council, and the council decides what to do. We can give recommendations. We didn't discuss it ahead of time. I am disappointed in your response just now, Don. I understand that you don't think this is, that it's earth-shattering, but in the business of the city, this is extremely important and makes us vulnerable. It has scarred us, it has hurt us, it must be taken seriously. I know you think they're drastic measures. Maybe had you caught this when it was happening, then finding all those backups would be acceptable. I don't know that that's acceptable now. Do we need another moment?
How was I supposed to catch this?
Okay, is this, I can have it back and forth? I will tell you that I would have caught it. If I had received two checks in the same month, for the same month, I would have caught it. If I had turned in a reimbursement expense, I would have a copy of it so that I could show that all of those are there. I understand you didn't do it. I understand you're not a numbers person. I understand that's where you stand, but you have to know there's 5 of us up here. There's 5 people managing these things, and we have to look at it that the rest of us were able to do that.
Okay, well, I gave the money back for that, even though I'm not sure that it was.
Microphone, please.
I gave the money back on that the minute they told me that I'd been paid. I did ask him to check to see if, in fact, it was another month that I turned in. I don't keep copies of things like that. I have all my banking on my computer, and that's where it says. And if I need something, I go to the computer. My intent was just, well,
Jordan, you had something?
never mind.
Yes, I'm not sure that I have the full accounting. What is the total amount that we're talking about? That's number one, I think that Betsy said was the first thing to do, is to make full restitution.
We can ask for that amount to be paid back. I haven't added the two figures together. Overpayment is in, that we've seen so far is in the amount of $273.21. Overpayment for the phone is $686.
And that's based on the fact that
They're all incorrect.
back,
$960.
and that's, be sure that gets in the paper.
Okay.
That's based on the fact that the backup wasn't correct.
That, none of that, it's not just a backup. There were signatures missing, there were figures were
Oh,
wrong.
yeah, that's right.
So there's a lot of items. Had it been just a couple things, then we probably would have treated it a little bit.
So I guess I'm asking number one, are you willing, Don, to accept the amount of money that was erroneously paid to you, or do you agree with this?
No.
You don't agree with it? Okay, well,
As I said, this erroneous money that was paid, because now I'm hearing the checks that I was told were acceptable are not. I will go back and get the records from the phone company to back it up. I will give you whatever is required. I have in the past given whatever was required. If nobody tells me something's wrong, I can't fix it. If somebody had told me the first month, here's a little line and you have to sign your name on it, you can bet every month I would have had my signature on that. So no, I do not accept that I should give back money that it cost me. I could have taken a city phone and I wouldn't have had this issue. So why should I have to pay back money at this point when I can prove that it was legitimately charged?
I don't think we can have public comments at this point. I've had a couple people asking. Okay. All right, we'll accept public comments. Please keep it brief. Anybody interested?
Just a quick comment. From what I've heard, that she got paid twice for January of 2017, is that what you said?
That's what it shows.
Okay. Then I asked for public records. You're probably aware of that, Don.
Yes.
And I got the public records for you for December, January, and February, and March. So I asked for everything from that period of time. I have one January. So if there are two, then the city failed to give me the public record for that document, or that document didn't exist. Here are the records that I was given one January.
It's undated, by the way, the second one.
This is 2016. Oh, it's the 17 in the back.
It was given to me as of 2017.
This says 2016 on that. Here's, wait a minute.
While we're rifling through, Jack, would you like to say a few words?
Well, after listening to the Finance Committee there, it appears there's been quite a few mistakes. I think for the sake of the city, it would be better for the mayor to step down. That would be my opinion right now.
It's up to the council.
Dorothy, did you want to speak up?
I know none of this has been intentional on Don's part. But I guess my concern is if you can't fill out an expense report on a monthly basis, provide proper documentation, how competent is she to be our mayor? I've had expense reports all my life in all my jobs. I've never had one given back to me because I didn't do it right.
Barry?
I think the same thing. I don't think you really did anything intentional. That's not my concern. My concern is that you're self-admitted that you're not detailed. I don't think you're detail-oriented enough to perform adequately as mayor for our city. I think you have overlooked things, and even now have indicated that you think that you can make everything well. You can't make everything well. You made some very serious, clumsy errors, and I think you probably ought to consider stepping down yourself.
Don, I know there's been a lot of comments, and I don't think you did this out of malice or anything at all. I hope that isn't the intent. But I do know some of the statements that have been made. This is as of December 1, 2016. And it says that, do I have to start using the city phone to avoid this hassle every month? You know, you were on your daughter's plan, don't see the bill, it's taken out automatically. So obviously you were aware that they were asking for documentation.
And I complied to whatever it is.
Look,
Why don't we just shorten this? I'm sure everybody would love to go home, and it'll make a lot of you happy. If I just resign as mayor, I will just move back to being a council person, and Mayor Pro Tem can step in, or you, the council, can determine who wants to be mayor. Would that make everybody happy and life a lot simpler? I didn't ask the audience. I asked for a motion from the council to move to remove me, or you can take my resignation as mayor. You can do whichever you prefer. If you accept my resignation as mayor, then you need to take action to appoint a mayor.
Well, if we were to make a decision, then I think we should.
Mike.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
what was it?
You were, but you have to speak into it.
Okay. We should accept your
Talk to
offer.
the mic, not Vicky.
I'm sorry?
There you go.
Okay, I'm sorry. We should accept her offer.
What's it?
That she will resign.
Asking for a motion.
No,
We
not
can't-
on the agenda.
You-
They would accept her resignation, and you have a mayor pro tem who can function until you can agendize the issue of either replacing the mayor or mayor pro tem, which would be at your next meeting.
Okay. I hereby resign as mayor. I will move back to just a sitting director.
Do we need further comment on that?
Only if there's anything else that anybody on the council feels needs to be done. If we still feel we need to seek reimbursement or suspend reimbursements, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I
We're not
believe
bringing
we
it back.
Okay, I think that in the interim, we do need to look at the policy again, and I think we should suspend. Can we make that, to suspend reimbursement until the new policy's in place?
We've already done that.
We've already done that, okay. Then we'll do-
And let's take a look at, just to be sure of the accuracy here. I think it is, but, and for just a moment, if I can speak as a human and not a lawyer, thank you for your services, Mayor Dawn. Mayor Pro Tem, your official agenda.
I'm not going. Okay. Okay, we have just a couple more things on the agenda. Are there any other announcements from any council members? Our next city council meeting is May 3rd for an open session at 6:30. Anything further?
Probably will be a closed session.
We're assuming that there will be a closed session probably at 5:30? Okay, then we'll call for that now, put that in. And we are adjourned at straight
Can
up.
I just make
Okay,
one?
I'm sorry. You will be returning to closed session.
That's right.
Just one comment. I'm not going to be here in May, so if there's anything that needs to be voted on, that you think I need to vote on, please let me know so I can be electronically hooked up if possible.
Okay, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we are going to adjourn our open session to a closed session to continue our previous discussion. You all don't have to hang around. I don't think we're going to have a public announcement after, but we could. You're welcome to stay. The seats are very comfortable. Well, if not, we are adjourned at 9:02. Or adjourned to closed session.
You gonna stay or?